Welcome to episode number 308 of Destination Linux. Destination Linux is a video podcast from the TuxDigital Network. If you're new to the show, Destination Linux is a podcast perfect for all experience levels. Whether you're brand new to open source or a guru of sudo, this is the podcast for you. My name is Jill.
I'm Brian.
And I'm Michael.
And on this awesome episode of Destination Linux, we're going to discuss open source hardware and the important part it plays in our future. Then we discuss the dangers of using VS Code. Plus, we have our tips, tricks, and software picks. All this and more coming up right now on Destination Linux to keep those penguins marching.
This week in our community feedback, we have some feedback from Isaac. And if you want to send in your own feedback, you can go to tuxdigital.com/contact to get in touch, or you can send us a message on our Discourse forums as well. And you know, we hang out on Discord sometimes. If you want to get with the community, game with the community, chat about Linux, go to tuxdigital.com/Discord. Isaac goes on to say, "Hi, Tux Digital gang. I've been listening to DL since before I switched to Linux about a year and a half ago, and have since branched out to all the podcasts on the network." That's how you do it. That's the pro move right there. If you're a pro, you're watching all the podcasts on the network. Yeah. You can find me as Short Film Tall People on the forum. I like the name. I've started out as a freelance journalist of sorts, interviewing people I think would be interesting, mostly in the Middle Texas area, and putting their stories on my channel, Unordinary People. I've been using all the Libra software to record, edit, and create graphics of the podcast, and wanting to branch out into doing some remote interviews. Although everyone on the network could be considered unordinary by my definition, I'm particularly interested in Ryan's history. He's just such an amazing host, and I'm so interested in everything he says and does, and
Ryan,
every time he's speaking, I hang on every word.
Fair enough. You read a lot that right there. It wasn't actually in the email, but I do appreciate the fact that you were able to like ad lib, so much about what his email was, because I'm pretty sure it was a different person. And I think it was Michael. Really he said interested in what Michael's history in computers and animation and all the graphic work that I do.
It was definitely
and the
me.
amount of it might have been. I mean, it could have been both of us. I think that's what really happened.
They want to interview both of us. That's probably what.
Yes,
well, let me just read it verbatim here. I was just going off memory there. I'm particularly interested in Jill's history.
That's okay. That's different.
3D animation and work in the movies, as well as her current role with the Linux Chicks and teaching 3D animation. If she would be willing to give me an interview over video chat, I would love to help tell her story. Thank you guys for all the work you do. Isaac. Well, listen, Isaac, I think it's great to set goals. And we are willing to help you meet that goals for the low speaking fee of $10,000. We will have Jill join your Unordinary People podcast. And right, Jill, about 10 grand? Is that the going rate?
We could go a little lower than that.
A little lower? Okay,
$6 grand.
$6 grand. That's we'll negotiate. $6 grand.
Yeah, we're reasonable.
Yeah. You're getting told Jill's history? Come on. I mean, really, we should do it. The $6 grand is actually a good deal because we should save it and only allow Jill to tell the story on our show. I think it's a fair deal right there. There you go. Well, what do you say, Jill? You gonna go on Unordinary People?
Yeah, absolutely. This sounds like so much fun. And thank you again, Isaac. I would be honored to talk to you. And I've actually already been in contact with him to do an interview soon.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Did you already get the check, Jill?
Yeah, we got to make sure you got to get the money up front, at least 50-50. 50 down, 50 when you do it,
Well, listen, we all talk about the fact that Jill needs to write a book, honestly. Like, her life story is fascinating. It's amazing. And
agreed.
I think it's awesome you want to interview Jill. Every time Jill does an interview, I tune in, learn something new, and then go, of course she did. Because
yes, exactly.
Of course she has. She's lived her life.
Every time she speaks,
the way everyone should live the life. There's this great saying that I want to go to my grave sliding in sideways, all scarred up, going, woo, what a ride. And I feel like Jill's life story is like that. Like, it's just, living life to its fullest. Do you know this episode, Michael, when you talk about living life to its fullest, you still want to be a little safe and secure. Like, you don't want to just be completely on the edge.
That's true. How would you do that, Ryan?
Well, you got to have a good password manager in your life.
Oh, that's, yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know what I use?
I've heard about it before. I mean, we've talked about this on occasionally, just rarely. But you could enlighten our audience. What would that be?
Well, if I was an audience member and I wanted to live life on the edge, but not with my passwords
safely
and
on the edge with like hooks into
They're
the
like
cliff.
The parachute of software. Go to bitwarden.com/tux. That's /TUX. Password manager software allows you to have peace of mind knowing your online accounts are secure. Bitwarden provides you the tools to store all your passwords in secured vaults, auto-generate those passwords and usernames for you, and even automatically fill that in for you. You have access to your data across all kinds of devices, web browser, mobile apps, desktop applications. And if you are one of those command line gurus, then you can even use it in the command line as well. Bitwarden seals and encrypts your private data with end-to-end encryption before it ever leaves your device. You know they're the only person with access to your data. Plus, if you want their premium service, it comes with all kinds of cool things: gigabyte encrypted file storage, two-step login with YubiKey, which is how I use it, Vault Health Reports, Bitwarden Authenticator, priority customer support, $10 per year. No inflation gate here. I mean, $10 is like what eggs cost now. So $10 a year, you get Bitwarden Premium, you get this amazing software. And if you've seen all the other password managers in the news, then you know why you want this amazing software here and not those. Go to Bitwarden, have peace of mind, bitwarden.com/TUX. Check them out. So we talked about CES 2023 on Hardware Addicts. We talked earlier about Isaac listening to all our podcasts. One of the great podcasts Michael and Wendy and myself are part of is Hardware Addicts, where we talk about all kinds of tech and our tech adventures for the week. So definitely one you want to add to your player. We covered CES, lots of cool things, robotics, all of that stuff. But there was one piece of technology, Michael, that you brought to my attention that I purposefully left out of Hardware Addict.
I was worried, like, why did I pick a wrong thing? Like, why is this not on the? I thought it was a good topic, and then all of a sudden, it's on this show, which is so nice.
Well, it was kind of brilliant because it was all this hardware tech, but it has this open source story to it, which was why I feel like it's perfect for this show.
For sure.
That is CoolerMaster. And what they're doing is they're trying to get rid of the non-standard proprietary bloatware that they've used in the past and other companies use for their software control suite. So for instance, if you have fans or all-in-one coolers and things that have RGB, or you want to control the RPMs and stuff, you would have to go into, say, Windows to control all of that stuff. And then maybe if you booted into Linux, then you would use some of hacked software. Somebody was able to reverse engineer it, or maybe there was no control at all that you would have. You'd have to leave whatever default you would set in Windows there. But CoolerMaster is envisioning something completely different, which is awesome. And I love that they're doing this. But it also started making me think about the wider community of peripherals and things that we have here and how important this movement with hardware could be. Now, I want to set the stage that PCs right now and PC part manufacturers are hurting really bad, like really bad. If you look at NVIDIA, AMD, Intel, they're all suffering to try to get sales right now because it's completely in the tank. And so during these type of times when things like this happen, you want to differentiate yourself from your competition, which is exactly what CoolerMaster is doing here, is differentiating themselves from everybody else, which I think is a brilliant move and happens to benefit the open source community as well. But think about it. You've got keyboards. How many times is there a cool keyboard that gets announced at an event or something else, and the first thing us Linux users are doing is going, well, will I be able to control it in Linux?
Does it work in open RGB?
Exactly. Will it work
or just allow you to like in this case, I'm more excited because a lot of the times where we would get these devices that have some level of Linux support, they'd have like minimum support, and it's a third-party thing, so there's only so much you could do with it. Like you could change the colors, but you can't change like the style the color goes in. Also, you can't change the functionality of the buttons and stuff like that. So I'm using a mouse that has support for an open source application, and it's great that I can change certain things, but the stuff that I wanted to change, it doesn't have support yet.
Exactly.
And this is a reason I would absolutely, without hesitation, get a CoolerMaster product guaranteed.
100%. And then you look at your mouse, it's the same situation. There are a lot of great mouse options out there for gaming and other things, but we don't know if all the software will be able to control the DPI if it's not on the hardware itself, whether we'll be able to do that in Linux. Now, a lot of times, the community goes down there, we're talking monitors as well, cooler software, all of this stuff, you have those potential issues that happen, especially as more of these components that we don't think typically, do I really need a software suite that comes with my monitor? Well, if you're doing color calibration and other things, as they're adding all these other enhancements, 100%. Eventually the answer is yes. Like Michael said, you do need this stuff. And what happens is our community has to reverse engineer and hack this stuff to get it to work. Mm-hmm. And that takes a ton of time. So even though CoolerMaster didn't specifically say here, we're going to make our software suite available for Linux, because it's open source, we don't have to reverse engineer it. That's the big key, to be able to utilize that software within Linux. So it's going to be much more adaptable. I hope they make it for Linux, don't get me wrong, but just the fact they're open sourcing it is a big, big deal and improvement on where it's at.
People say often that if you don't want to support Linux, that's okay, but as long as you do it open source, we'll accept it because we're going to make it work then. Exactly. And that's a very common approach in the Linux world. So I know that they haven't said specifically Linux support, but that's okay, because the open sourcing of it is really what matters, because it's almost a guarantee at that point that we will have support sometime.
Yeah. And I think
that's why the community is awesome.
Yeah. Just awesome. And one of the things I was amazed about this is that CoolerMaster is actually doing a complete redesign of their Master Plus software with an API plugin system that allows non-CoolerMaster coolers to integrate with it.
That's impressive.
So this is huge. Now you're creating a standard.
Absolutely huge.
Right? You're setting a standard to say, not only are we going to open source our software, but we're going to allow other people who are not CoolerMaster to also piggyback on it, so that our software suite will then control those as well. So they're picking up all of the heavy lifting. And if you're a smaller company that's creating coolers and things, you can benefit from the work CoolerMaster has done. But us as a consumer all benefit, because whether you're buying that one from that other company, you're buying CoolerMaster, you can still be able to change things, fan speeds, RGB lights, all of that type of stuff, or set up cooling profiles, which is really important depending on the workloads and stuff that you're doing with your machine.
Yeah, and exclusive CoolerMaster features actually won't work with other coolers, of course. Yeah. But things such as detecting a leak in the AIO cooler or calculating the PSU's efficiency, can't be tracked by third-party products, but the application will support reading basic performance info, such as what Ryan said is temperature and fan speed, and the ability to configure ARGB devices.
Yeah, I think this is fantastic.
Very powerful.
I think that a lot of people aren't really aware of how impactful this is, because I'm pretty sure this is the first company that makes these kind of products to create an open source application that allows them to configure these things. I mean, in addition to supporting other devices from other companies, that's also impressive. But the open source approach, I think this is the first time I've ever seen any of these companies do it. And they all have these application suites, and they're all super cumbersome and annoying and really hard to use. And they're not only making it open source, they're redesigning the whole thing. So they're optimizing it as well. So, I mean, I was never really a fan of CoolerMaster in terms of I never really had the incentive to try their products. I didn't do that on purpose. I didn't do that on purpose, but I'm glad you noticed it. The CoolerMaster company has had, I've used some of their products, but I've never really gone out there and said, oh, I need to get a CoolerMaster. Now that is the case.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I think it's such a smart move. I mean, it's the same with me. It's not a brand that I avoided, but it's also not a brand that I just went and was like, I'm going to get a CoolerMaster. Now it will be that brand that I go, hey, I'm going to go get a CoolerMaster setup because of the work that they're doing here. And again, they're spending their money to redesign an entire software suite, which is very expensive, hiring the developers and making it open. They're giving it to the community, the wider community there. And when companies do stuff like that, I think we need to support them. It's very cool. Also, when I look at things like even my Sony camera, me and Michael, if you're on Hardware Addicts, and Wendy, talk about how much we love the mirrorless Sony camera. Well, they have this set up to basically, one of the things we talked about last episode is I wanted to be able to wirelessly send my photos from my camera to my computer. One of the things that Sony puts behind proprietary software is literally just setting up a Wi-Fi connection. That's all it does. I know that's all it does because I found somebody who reversed engineered it in Linux so I could get their proprietary software to work in Linux that basically says, hey, all this is doing is capturing Wi-Fi information and storing it in the camera. But they purposefully make this thing proprietary. Doesn't need to be. And those are the type of hardware decisions and companies I want to move away from. And with hardware companies suffering like they are right now, man, what a smart move for CoolerMaster to go out there and say, hey, we're going to do something completely different and utilize open source to accomplish that. I love that they're kind of setting a standard at the same time, but also giving everyone full creative control through the API links as well, which is really neat.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And Ryan, I was just thinking about this as you're talking about it, is that they're now starting to get into making full-blown PCs.
Yes.
And this is really good news because if they're open sourcing that software, maybe they're thinking, long term, maybe some Linux in there.
Let's hope,
never know.
Right? Fingers
Let's
crossed.
Hope.
If our community comes in and gives them the hug of death like they did to me when I first did my 30 days of Linux and I got the hug of death from the Linux community. And I was like, well, I guess I'm Linux now because y'all came around all of a sudden. If we did that to CoolerMaster, they might start making it.
And I wanted to talk a little bit about Linux's dominance at CES.
Yeah.
So, Linux, yes, is the dominant operating system on the floor of CES. Whether it is in the Eureka Park exhibit, which features startups and makers, to the main floor with the car booths, to smart refrigerators and TVs. So now Linux and open source are finally making it to the major PC manufacturers. Woo, woo. This is just
This is what we all dreamed about. It's the year of Linux. Oh, I know when people hate when I say that.
We're getting closer to the year of the Linux desktop.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, we're the year of Linux. We passed that a while back.
Yeah. We
the
did.
desktop
Absolutely.
is the thing they were still working on.
Well, I'm hoping that other manufacturers follow suit, like MSI and Razer and Logitech. In fact, at one point, a few years ago, Razer reached out to me and was interested in having me test some of their hardware with Linux software. So I think, they're starting to think long term about these things and how important Linux is in the community with developers and creators. I have attended the technological playground that we call CES before and Comdex before that. Those two conventions actually merged.
No, of course.
Yeah. And it's actually been amazing seeing the growth of Linux and open source at the event over the years. But I actually have one ask for CoolerMaster since we're talking about their open source awesomeness. Could you please have a Linux pre-installed option on your new awesome Shark X PC?
Ooh.
I want that beautiful and unique PC shaped as a shark. It looks like a robotic shark that's jumping up out of water, and it's white with black internals. It looks amazing, and it's unique.
Nice.
And CoolerMaster, if there's no Linux on this computer, you have jumped the shark.
Oh, Jill. Nice. Jill. Look at that. Throw in that reference in there. Look, this machine is really cool looking. I love when people do unique custom cases. You see them, there's forums and things dedicated to this. And when companies go out and do it, they usually take some risk, but not a ton. I don't know whether I love this case or it's also a little odd to me, but it's definitely, they took risks. I will give them that. It is a very unique take on a computer case. I think it would be cool for something that's definitely meant to get your attention, which it did. Congratulations. That it would have Linux on it too and talk about that. That would be really neat for the Linux community. But whether it's time for you to start building a new PC or upgrading your existing one, to me, this made me a fan of CoolerMaster when you can use open source software to control your hardware. And so that's what I will be checking out. And what a novel idea to really give the community back control of things in a world in which everybody else is taking it away. Even car manufacturers locking basic features behind paywalls and things like that. Now, this show, we would never sink to that level. However, we did think about putting Jill behind a paywall because it just makes financial sense.
It just makes sense, yeah.
You guys can't have Jill anymore till you open a bunch of loot crates and then you unlock her later on. We're working out the details.
How we're going to do each individual show with cameras embedded into the video. We haven't just figured that part out yet, but we're working on it. But in the meantime, you can go to tuxdigital.com/contribute and become a patron and get all the other perks that are like basically like DLCs and stuff like that, like being able to join us for the live streams, like in the patron only post show as well. So much great stuff. tuxdigital.com/contribute. Speaking of things that are fantastic, this CoolerMaster thing, I am very excited about this because I like when I've tried their stuff, I like it, but at the same time, I always have to like kind of be disappointed because I can't really configure anything. And now that they're doing this open source thing, this is such a game changer. We should make it clear how big of a difference this should make because they're not like some random company here and there making some hardware that they're making software for it. They're a big manufacturer of these peripherals that is going to be making open source software.
One of the biggest. Yeah.
Which is going to give incentive to other companies to follow suit, probably because they're going to see the benefits that CoolerMaster is going to get from it. From all the Linux users are now super interested in checking out their hardware, and the other ones are losing it. Like, for example, I have a different product for my mouse that I am considering sending back now because of this announcement. Even if I have to wait a little bit to get the software, it is better than having the option of like, I guarantee you that the other company I got the product for now has no interest in making it right now. So at least the hope that it's coming is enough for me to switch. So I can't, and also the prices are not that huge. It's not like a huge investment. But I wanted to also bring out something in the chat, in the live chat. Liam says, so you're saying there's no more hating good products due to the bad software? Like, exactly.
Yeah.
Or you know what I saw in the chat, Michael, is that Serpent OS being created by Ike is in the chat. And who can get all the CoolerMaster products once the software is open source to work in Linux better than Ike? Come on. Ike could totally get all the CoolerMaster stuff working, probably in his spare time in about an hour or two. Now that's undersell. But
you're right. Maybe 3 hours.
Could totally do it. So yeah, we've got someone in the chat there. But I heard, this was like a year ago, someone told us that Microsoft listens to our podcast in their engineering room. Like it plays in the room.
Hello there, Microsoft.
Yeah. I'm hoping CoolerMaster also listens to our show and will come on the show. So CoolerMaster, if you have a representative who wants to come on the show to talk about this, we'd love to talk to you live about the things that you're doing, why you made this decision.
That'd be awesome.
And we'll dote on you a little bit too, because it's pretty cool.
Yeah. The other thing I was thinking about this is most of, besides the, CoolerMaster Master Plus software, which is very good, even on Windows, most of the other software on Windows to control the peripherals are horrible.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And
they're very clunky and slow. Sometimes they actually require you to have them running in order for stuff for function.
Yeah.
And it makes your system even more bloated.
And to register and log in and all of this stuff. Oh my gosh.
Whether, you're controlling fan speed or temperature or RGB, the software is just so kind of janky. And open sourcing it could make it so much better, it's going to make
the community then can contribute.
The community can work on it and improve it so it's clean and fast and responsive, like the software we have on Linux.
Exactly. Well, you know what they probably are using, because 70% of all developers are to make these changes to their code, is VSCode.
Yes, quite likely. And isn't there something that happened in the news, Ryan, about this?
Not so good news happening this right here. So there's a company that was doing a security audit on this called Aquasec. Michael, you remember we were talking about one of the big security and privacy things we've told the community about is extensions in browsers.
Oh, yeah, quite often. I mean, any browser is going to have an issue with extensions, but the target of a browser, they are aware that they are a target, so they usually put in some effort to stop that. It doesn't seem like VSCode has put in that effort. And for the Microsoft engineers who are listening to this show, you might want to put some effort into your extension protection.
Well, they probably want to. They probably get shot down, I assume, by some superiors there.
Okay, sorry.
At big corporate
engineers
America.
Talk to the executives who go actually
tell them
make
we're complaining about it on this show here.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
So what's interesting is in browsers, a lot of people get really excited, like in Firefox, Chrome, whatever you're using, hopefully Firefox, that you can install these cool tools and things in there. But extensions get spoofed. So one of the things they do in browser extensions is they'll create one like, for instance, let's say, just as an example here, uBlock Origin, someone creates another thing called u_block Origin, and then they do some gaming and things to try to get the extension to look really popular, and then people download the wrong one, and one's really good, and the other one's actually stealing all your data and is really a virus and all that stuff. So what I tend to tell people is live with as few extensions as possible in your browser and make sure you double, triple check the developers and where you're getting that stuff from. It's a really easy target, and it's a big target for them, because if they can get people to install an extension and get into your browsing history and everything else, they've got a lot of control. Well, this audit that was done on VSCode showed that the exact same thing can happen, but way easier in VSCode. So VSCode recognizes a lot of extensions. If you want to write Python and things, you can do extensions to, of course, do auto formatting of your text and do all kinds of fun, cool things in VS Code. But they found that it was extraordinarily easy to spoof other extensions which are popular. So that means like making the same name extension. Let's say the extension's Python. You name your extension also Python. And then it was also extraordinarily easy to make it look popular even though it wasn't, meaning their system was easy to manipulate to make a app look like it's got 80,000 downloads, for instance. And I don't know about you, but that's one of the things that I look at as a criteria for an extension. I'm like, well, how many people have downloaded it? How many stars does it have? Then I look into, and if you can spoof that, then none of that now is information that's actually useful for you to decide if you're using the correct extension and not some spoof thing. They also stated that the verification system Microsoft has deployed is so easy to acquire that it's essentially worthless. So they have a verification system, but pretty much anyone can go get verified. I guess it's like the Twitter blue checkmark thing.
You get paid for it,
Yeah.
At this point, for anyone who's using VS Code, you need to make sure the extensions you have installed are the ones you actually wanted, because when I first heard about this, like, of course there's going to be some kind of extension system that has, there's an issue sometime in many applications. As soon as they have, if you introduce an extension system and you have a market that people can submit to, you're going to have to deal with people who are awful and they're going to submit like terrible things. And I get that. So it's not to say that they made a mistake there. It's the level of how much they can pretend to be real is what creates this really big problem. And I know Microsoft is already working on fixing this, but it's just something that is so impactful that if you are using VS Code, you need to make sure that you check out all of your extensions. And if you don't need some extensions, just remove them. And I will give Ryan credit that I did remove some extensions based on his recommendation of like, I don't need that many. And then so he had a little bit of a panic attack the first time he saw my extension list.
Insane,
it was about,
y'all.
Yeah, he had about 3 or 4, I think. And then my extension list was about 40. And a little bit of a panic attack. Like, okay, fair enough. I'll remove a few. But anyway, this is something that I need everyone to check out. Make sure that you have only extensions you need and you have the right ones. And if that's not something that you could do, there is also Sublime Text. That is an option.
Oh, well, it's interesting you say that. Nice plug for Sublime Text.
Thank you.
But I want to say that really, if you're using any software that has an extension system or using third-party extensions, even Sublime Text, you need to definitely do the same thing. You need to make sure that you're actually going and verifying the developers. A lot of times they have info where you can go to the actual external site of the developers and try to see if this thing's spoofed. It's a lot of extra work, which if you actually do that extra work, you probably won't have many extensions in your browser because you don't want to spend all the time doing it. But anything can be targeted through this. Why VS Code we're mentioning here specifically? Because 70% of all software developers use it.
Yeah.
So if you are thinking from a deviant behavior situation where you want to be one of these people that can make the biggest impact and steal IP or be able to impact a company in a big way, and you know that 70% of all software developers are using VS Code, that's what your target's going to be for spoofing an extension system, especially since, unfortunately, Microsoft has made it very easy here. And like you said, Michael, hopefully they patch it very quickly. Likely they will now that this research is out, but something to be wary of for sure.
Oh, this is scary. And I'm so happy to hear that Microsoft is starting to work on this. What I was, one of the concerns I had was not only could the malware attackers name the extension exactly the same name as the legitimate one, but they could also use the same logo and description as the legitimate project. And, we're as humans, we're visual. And that is just, if you see the logo, oh, yeah, of course, I'll accept it. Everyone's guilty of just, they see a logo they know and click on it.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, there's the amounts of things they could do to trick you into believing it is. At some point, it just looked legitimate. It wasn't even like people were tricked. They looked legitimate because of all the things that you could do in the marketplace.
I see this happen most often, honestly, in the Microsoft Store. The Microsoft Store is known for having a bunch of spoofed software. A lot of it is even open source software. You guys remember when that hit the news that people were taking software that was free, they were reloading it on the Microsoft Software Store and charging people for open source and free software. Some of them, of course, were adding in additional things like ads and other stuff on top of it. I also see it heavily with ad blockers. So there's a lot of times that in the browser world, people try to spoof ad blockers. So someone will go out and recommend one, and then people will go spoof it. And so people who are just following advice they find on the internet and they see, again, just as an example, uBlock Origin, and just, oh, that's it. That's the one they talked about. Click it, install it, maybe getting the one that's actually a fake. This is a big problem people need to be really worried about and concerned with when they're installing extensions there. Jill, you know what we don't have to be worried and concerned about?
What, Ryan?
Hitting paywalls with awesome games like the one you're about to talk about.
Yes, absolutely. So a long time ago, yes, in a galaxy far, far away, there was gaming without paywalls, Ryan.
Pepperidge Farms.
What?
It was
Seems
a time when you had to spend hours mastering levels, and if you ran out of lives, you had to start all the way back at the beginning.
That part wasn't great.
That part was great because if you had a game genie, then you could hack it. That was the first hack us as kids.
There weren't paywalls by the game developers. There's paywalls because the company third party was like, yeah, no one wants to do this, so we're gonna make the game genie.
Yeah.
I actually forgot about the Game Genie existence. So you said like, oh my goodness, yes, here. The Game Genie was so awesome.
That was the life, right? You got a Game Genie code and you had the little book you'd look up the codes with, or you could call Nintendo Power and get some codes sometimes to skip low.
It's awesome.
The good old days.
So in tribute to those amazing days of gaming, we have Juan sin Miedo, a pixel graphics 2D platformer that is sure to get that nostalgia kicking. And one of the reviews, this was what was really fun about this game. One of the reviews says, it is good, but also extremely difficult and punishing. You have been warned.
Just like hosting with Michael. That would be my exact comment on this.
Yeah.
For those who are watching listening to the audio version and not watching the show, you can't see my face, but I'm very disappointed in Ryan right now.
So disappointed. That's your disappointed face?
I said disappointed. I didn't say disappointed.
No, my daughter used to say disappointed when she was like 3, and so that's why I said that's your disappointed
face. Okay. Well, that's adorable. And I'm not disappointed in your daughter, but I am still disappointed in you.
Yeah. So the game has a different name. Juan sin Miedo, right? Did I do it right? Guadalajara.
Yes.
Hey, there you go. It's been a while since we said that. Good job, buddy.
Absolutely, Ryan.
Thank you. I'm practicing there. I'm getting better.
So this game is about the devil that arrives on Earth on the night of the Day of the Dead and kidnaps the beloved Princess Fifi. And it's up to you, the cowardly peasant Juan, to save the princess and put an end to the devil's evil.
I mean, to be fair, Juan wouldn't be very cowardly if he's going to put the end to the devil's evil.
I know, yeah.
You know? That's all I'm saying. That's weirdly worded.
Well, he was a coward until they took Fifi. If they took Fufu, we wouldn't care. But they took Fifi.
Fifi.
Exactly.
And once they took Fifi, Juan's like, nah, you've gone too far. Even though I'm a coward, I'm gonna fight now because you took Fifi. Yes.
Yeah, and so there's lots of levels of monsters, obstacles, and traps that will, stop Juan in his tracks and make it hard work for him. So make sure make sure to go boot up Steam and put your skills to the test in the age of Save the Princess Story Online.
Yes. So this would be a great game for the Steam Deck. Unfortunately, they don't have a Game Genie to connect into the Steam Deck yet.
Yeah.
That's true, but actually maybe they have a Game Shark instead.
Oh, the Game Shark. I forgot about the Game Shark. Yeah.
I was thinking, as soon as you mentioned that, I was like, what was the other one?
Yeah.
Game Shark was fun too.
Yeah, Game Shark.
You got 7 levels full of monsters, obstacles, and traps. So this is like the old school version of Elden Ring or one of the games in that genre where they're really difficult to beat. But people are like, hey, this game in my genre is really difficult to beat. And I'm like, welcome to my genre. Try playing Mario Brothers 1. And when you die, you go all the way back to the beginning. You don't get no nice starting point. There's no save. Your mom tells you to turn it off and you're right at the end boss because it's bedtime. Guess what? You start it all over the next day. That's how it wasn't great. Speaking of awesome things being open sourced, in our software spotlight, one of the big issues, and we've run into this ourselves, that developers and content creators in open source have to contend with is wanting analytics on users, but without invading the user's privacy. This is a big problem in the open source world because all the solutions that are out there, like I don't want to go have to develop my own solution for it, but all the ones that are out there pre-made are all extraordinarily invasive for the most part. And that's where Swetrix Analytics comes in, and they're trying to solve this problem. Swetrix is an open source analytics service for your web application. It's cookieless and has lots of beautiful analytics and charts that will help you to translate the data that it pulls into something that's meaningful. And in addition, this blew me away. It has compliance with GDPR data and processing based in EU zone, HIPAA protecting sensitive information, PCI DSS payment data security, and CCPA control over the personal information there. Wow. And there's a free version up to 10 websites, but you also have some paid options as well. And I'm totally for that. Somebody has created this. It's open source. It's focusing on privacy. You can go and look through the code yourself, and you don't have to worry about it stealing your users' data, so you can respect it there. Michael, we've had, dozens of conversations about this type of product, trying to deploy something to protect our users, but also we want to know how many people are visiting our sites and other things. I was thinking just one of those GeoCities big counters in neon that used to pop up.
The little pop-ups in the corner.
Yeah, that's how we know how much data analytics we have.
That's all you need. It's all you need. The little hit counter. It's all we need.
The hit counter.
Hit counter.
And when it got to 20 million, you thought you were the stuff, and then you realized it was all bots and fake.
Or the counter at the bottom, the way bottom of the webpage back in the 90s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then you have the debate of whether or not GeoCities versus Angel Fire, and then I just never.
Oh, Angel Fire all the way, man. I mean, come on. They had way more gifts.
I got pretty good at GeoCities because you could just use JavaScript to hide away that pop-up, and it would look like you have a special website. They're pros and cons.
Pros and cons. But what do you think
this
about
is really
this,
cool.
Michael?
I think it's awesome. And in terms of like having an open source analytics software, this is something that we've needed for a long time. And there are other options that have been around for a while, but they seem to have a little bit of hit and miss because this has the free version up to 10 websites, and I'm curious what the add-on system works like, because if it's a reasonable cost for the add-ons and or the extra paid options like the pro options, then I would be very interested in this, because the other ones that are in this space that are open source have kind of expensive add-ons where you could pay $200 to $300 per add-on, and that just seems kind of counterintuitive to
So their pricing is, for freelancer, it goes to $15 a month. That gives you everything in their hobby plan, which is 100,000, and you get 100,000 visits per month, up to 20 websites. 10 alerting rules. And by buying this, you're supporting, of course, the small business. In the startup, they give you 1 million visits per month and 50 alerting rules. And then you get everything from the freelance as well. And then for $110 a month for enterprise, you get everything in the startup plan plus 5 million visits per month and add up to 30 websites and 100 alerting rules there. So seems to be fairly reasonably priced.
That is pretty good.
For this type of product. Now, I want to make it clear, we've not used this yet.
Right.
It's available. It looks really promising.
It's something we wanted to tell you about because it looks cool. Yeah. Also, their website's impressive too.
Yes. I was so impressed with how detailed, the graphs were and all the information. Like, I ran the live demo, and in the OS name category, not only does it show the stats of Linux and how many Linux users have come to the site, but of individual distros like Ubuntu.
Nice.
That's awesome.
That's really awesome, because usually you have to pay for that kind of support.
Absolutely.
So, and I think it was cool that you could change it to a pie chart view instead of a line view. And
yeah, I mean, it looks great. I mean, it looks great. It looks like it has a lot of details. The fact that it's open source is also really interesting, and I will be testing it out to see how valuable it is compared to the other options like Matomo, which is really good too. But there are other ones as well. But the biggest elephant in the room is how well does it compare to Google Analytics? We kind of have to, I want to test it out to see how close it is. But even if it's even remotely close, then it's worth checking out, because most of the time there's always some kind of limitation. And this seems to be very robust, and I can't wait to try it.
The other rumor that I heard, I couldn't get it verified in their site, but it was being talked about in a Reddit forum, is that they may be working on a ad network system that also would keep people's privacy, but allow you to connect into and monetize your stuff. And what a great pivot if they do that, because gosh, this is something that's so desperately needed in the community, something where we can put ads in there, but like DuckDuckGo, they're privacy respecting ads. They're just random ads that show up, but you still got some monetization coming on your site. Or it doesn't even have to be completely random. They could be based on some of the very private information that you capture with this tool, and then be able to monetize those. That would be genius. And the great thing about this software and the way it's written, because it captures so little data on the users is from a privacy standpoint, it doesn't get blocked by ad blockers either. So ad blockers have no effect on this software kicking off and running, which is pretty cool too.
That's fantastic. I mean, the idea of having an ethical ad network that integrates with this analytics stuff, that would be fantastic, because having this analytics is great because it allows you to make the decisions on what you see in your audience and whether or not one decision is better than the other. And then having to be able to do this ad network thing, if they do that, that'd be amazing, because you can actually have an ethical option that doesn't require any of the existing ad networks. We won't mention any of them because that would be
not worth our time. They're not worth our time.
Yes, exactly.
We spit in their general direction.
I like how you just gave the sound of spitting rather.
Yes. Otherwise, people wouldn't know what we were talking about.
Exactly.
But Michael, when we were talking about privacy problems earlier, and you had all those extensions installed, one of those was ones I had spoofed to get a malware on your machine. Unfortunately, though, it generated millions of lines of logs, and I don't know how to clear them. I've got all your personal data, but I don't know how to clear it. How can I do that, Michael?
I'll help you out here. And in fact, I'll do so in the tip of the week. So this week's tip is maybe you want to clear out some large log files that you got from putting malware on your friend's computer. And you also clear some text files with all of its content, but you don't want to delete the file itself. Well, you can do this by using the command : and then greater than symbol, and then mylog.txt, or whatever the name of the file is. And that will help you be able to not, show your friends that you've put malware on their computer. And it's a good way to...
Thank you, Michael.
It's a good way to really show that your friendship is true.
I wanted to go through all your log files, but now I want to delete it all so other people can't steal your personal data.
Oh, I see. So you were doing me a solid.
Doing you a solid here by asking. So now I'll do the full : and then the greater than symbol, and then the michaelsecretfiles.txt. and completely erase that out right there from the terminal really easily.
Perfect.
The reason why, now you can also just do the greater than symbol and the TXT file, but if you use the colon, it's universal no matter what shell you're using. If you just use the greater than symbol and the name of the text file to clear it out, that works in Bash for sure, but some of the other shells may not work in.
See, Ryan, we needed Michael AI to explain this to us.
Yeah, exactly. That's not really Michael here. That's Michael AI.
This is actually,
That's not Michael. Michael
really? Avatar.
I'm just, for those who don't know, this is a deep fake that the AI bot is doing. It's a very good deep fake.
Speaking of paywalls and locking things behind DLC, we talked about that. I thought you were
going to say, speaking of deep fakes, let's talk about
we're going to deep fake ourselves to an event this year. We're going to be at Scale, folks. So you're going to want to come to Scale to meet the DL crew there. Who are we kidding? You really want to meet Jill. We know. And we're all going to be there at the 20th Annual Southern California Linux Expo. And it's going to take place March 9th through the 12th at the Pasadena Convention Center. And this is what really gets me every time in Pasadena, California. It's so easy to remember.
Yeah.
Pasadena. You can't lose here. You come out and hang out with us, have the best time of your life. Greatest time of your life. I don't care what else has happened in your life. You had your kids born, you got to watch it. Yes, that's sweet. But if you come see us, greatest time of your life.
It is
absolutely
Linux
no comparison. You could go to Disneyland and that still won't be as fun as going to Scale and meeting us.
This is true. Even I agree.
Whoa.
See that.
Scale is my home.
Yes, there you go.
Yes.
So you get to see Jill, and you can find Jill by looking for the penguin hat, which she actually does wear around Scale there.
Mm-hmm.
So a big thank you to each and every one of you for supporting us by watching or listening to Destination Linux. However you do it, we love your faces. We're here every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern live at tuxdigital.com/live. And the best part is everyone's invited to watch the recording of Destination Linux each and every week. You can see all of our mistakes live. Why wouldn't you want to?
We don't make mistakes,
the most fun you could have besides going to Scale and meeting us in person. And it's every week. We can't wait to see you in the chat.
Yeah. It'll be the best time you've ever had going to Scale. And the second best time is going to watch this show live at tuxdigital.com/live. And we don't make mistakes, Ryan.
Yeah.
We
make for those happy little accidents.
Yeah, no. For those who are only listening to the published episodes on, the podcast or the YouTube, that's the actual thing. When you watch this live, it's exactly that same. I don't do any editing. Yes, I mentioned that I'm an editor of the show, but I don't ever edit anything.
Yeah, so stop complaining about how much time it takes you, Michael.
Okay, I edit a lot. Ryan makes tons of mistakes. And okay, sometimes I do too, but not often.
I do too.
Not you.
But you could, not you, Jill.
Happy little accidents.
Happy little accidents. Are you doing like a Bob Ross thing? Happy little trees.
Happy little accident.
Well, if you join us live, you can also join us in our patron-only virtual stadium by becoming a patron at tuxdigital.com/contribute. And after the show, after the live show, you can join us in our patron-only post show where you can hang out with us every week after the show. We also have unedited versions. I mean, as I said, they're not edited, but you can get the other ones that are like a little bit of extra
totally
content.
Unedited.
That's just extra. We just give it as a bonus DLC. And you can go to tuxdigital.com/contribute to do that. And we have a fantastic store where you can get all the fantastic merch that we have. We have hoodies, coasters, hats, stickers, T-shirts. I mean, basically anything you can think of within reason.
I'm Batman. Get it now. If you want to be cool like Batman, get our merchandise.
For those who aren't watching and just listening, go to the YouTube channel to watch that particular section where Ryan was Batman for a second. It will be worth it.
He's a very good Batman.
Thank you.
And it's definitely worth it to go to the store at tuxdigital.com/store to get some awesome swag.
And make sure to check out all our wonderful shows here on Tux Digital. We have the Pseudo Show, This Week in Linux, the DOS Geek channel, Linux Out Loud, Hardware Addicts Game Sphere, and our virtual Linux user group, Linux Saloon. So everyone head to TuxDigital.com and subscribe to all these great shows. And don't forget to leave a rating on your favorite app so others can discover the power of open source and keep those penguins marching in the full Monty of Linux and open source awesome sauce. Everybody have a wonderful new year. And remember that the journey itself is just as important as the destination.
Thanks, everyone.
See you next week.
Love you.
Most of you.